Brooke, let's begin with you, because recession is a word, of course, no one wants to hear. And we want to be very clear, Australia is not in a recession, but why are we talking about it?
Well, the economy has absolutely slammed on the brakes. That report card on the economy GDP numbers that we got yesterday is a crucial one, and it did show that in the last 3 months of last year, the economy barely grew. Now, some people are looking at those numbers and saying, if you look at the economy and its growth per person, well, then, in fact, for the last 6 months of last year, we were in recession. It's a funny one. We don't usually talk about that, growth per capita. But what people are doing there is basically saying, well, if you can, strip out the fact that we've got pretty decent population growth, let's look at how the economy looks without that population growth. And in fact, there's not a lot going on. So you can look at it in that way. But look, we don't normally look at that in terms of, how often have we seen that? A couple of times in the last decade. So yeah, it's significant. But we're not in recession. We haven't seen a recession in 28 years. And even the fact that we've seen a per capita recession as of those numbers yesterday doesn't necessarily mean we're heading for a recession, but it is a talking point to just get to the bottom of the fact that we are actually, we're in trouble, we're at a turning point, the economy's looking really vulnerable right now. As
you say, it is a talking point. What does it mean for everyday Australians?
Well, I think it means we'll probably see interest rate cuts from the Reserve Bank, maybe sooner rather than later. The economy at this kind of turning point looks like it might need some help. Consumers, we're in the driving seat. The reason the economy is slowing down is we're not spending as much as we used to. We're quite nervous about house price falls. That's still got a way to go. So policymakers are looking and listening to what's going on. They'll see the economy needs help. They'll be stepping in. The Reserve Bank could cut rates as soon as July. But if we start to see a lot of nerves around the jobs market, it could come actually even sooner than that.
All right. Chris, no matter how they spin it, this is challenging for the government in the lead up to an election. Rather than criticise Labor, doesn't Scott Morrison need to focus on finding ways to stimulate economic growth? That's what people want to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly. I think the problem that the government has is that we've got historically low wages growth, and that's the thing that everyone is feeling. And that's the thing that the Labor Party has picked up on, and that is that your pay packet isn't growing, and you can hear it in everything that the Labor Party says. In fact, Bill Shorten said yesterday that this next election would be a referendum on wages, and that's what he's aiming at. Now, really, I don't know how he is going to lift wages. That's yet to be seen. He's offering a lot of prescriptions, penalty rates and other sorts of things, but in the end, the economy has to be able to afford it. But I do want to address just briefly, Georgie, this idea of a per capita recession. That's being pushed around by pencil-head economists. That really is a meaningless term. Why would you remove population from the calculation? It's always been part of what we did. A recession is 2 quarters when the economy goes into negative. And I was around for the last one. I saw unemployment hit 11%. At the moment, it's 5%. So let's not throw around a term which is actually quite serious.
And a term that potentially gives people the jitters, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely it does. And as I say, a recession is a really serious thing. We're lucky we haven't seen one in 28 years. And I can tell you, when you do see one, you'll know all about it. And by the way, if the papers actually believed that we were in a recession at the moment, they'd be screaming banner headlines across the front, not burying it on page 5.